The first and most fundamental difference between a high-value man and a low-value man lies in self-worth. Let me be clear, self-worth is not the same as self-esteem. It is not just about feeling good about yourself for a moment. It is about knowing at the deepest level that your value is not up for negotiation. A high-value man walks into the room with this quiet certainty. He does not need applause, attention, or constant validation to remind him that he matters. He already knows. The low-value man, on the other hand, is hungry not for growth, not for truth, but for approval. He scrolls through his phone looking for likes. He changes his behavior depending on who he's around, and he bends his identity just to fit in. He is living in what psychologists call an external locus of control, where his emotions and sense of self are dictated by the reactions of others. And the tragedy is, no matter how much he gets, it's never enough. Because when your worth depends on someone else's recognition, you are permanently enslaved to their opinion. The high-value man chooses differently. He operates from an internal locus of control. He knows that validation is nice, but it's not oxygen. His value does not fluctuate when someone praises him, nor does it collapse when someone criticizes him. He understands that both praise and criticism are temporary, fleeting judgments, while self-worth is permanent. This is why people are drawn to him. He doesn't need to prove anything, and that lack of neediness is magnetic. Think about it. We respect the man who doesn't chase because he already sees himself as enough. We dismiss the man who begs for attention, even if he tries harder, because deep down we sense his desperation. One projects abundance, the other scarcity. One radiates strength, the other insecurity. And this is the key shift. When a man stops outsourcing his worth and starts owning it, he transforms not just how others see him, but how he sees himself. The approval he once craved becomes irrelevant because he realizes he was never lacking to begin with. Remember this, the man who values himself commands value from the world. The man who doubts himself will always have to beg for it. The second distinction between a high-value man and a low-value man is purpose. This is where we separate men who build from men who waste. A high-value man understands that life cannot be lived on autopilot. He is not driven by temporary feelings but by long-term vision. He wakes up each day with a sense of direction, even if the path is difficult, even if the rewards are not immediate. For him, pleasure is secondary, but purpose is non-negotiable. The low-value man, in contrast, is a slave to comfort. His life revolves around the next distraction, the next dopamine hit, the next easy escape from responsibility. He binge watches, scrolls endlessly, drinks, plays, consumes, and calls it living. But deep down, he knows he is drifting. Without purpose, he is like a ship without a compass, moving but going nowhere. Psychologically, this comes down to delayed gratification. Every study on success confirms that the ability to delay pleasure in pursuit of a greater goal is the defining trait of high performers. The high-value man understands this instinctively. He knows that sacrifice today creates freedom tomorrow. He doesn't need to indulge every desire, because his commitment to something larger gives him strength. The low-value man, however, trades his future for the present. He chooses the thrill of the moment over the satisfaction of progress. He avoids struggle, not realizing that it is struggle itself that builds character. He avoids responsibility, not realizing that responsibility is what gives life meaning. And so he stays stuck, comfortable but empty, busy but unfulfilled. A man with purpose, on the other hand, carries a different energy. You can feel it when he speaks, when he moves, when he enters the room. His focus, his discipline, his refusal to be distracted, all of it communicates that he is building something beyond himself, and people respect that. Women are drawn to it. Friends admire it. Enemies, even if they hate it, cannot ignore it. Here is the truth: without purpose, a man becomes consumed by pleasure. With purpose, pleasure becomes irrelevant, because meaning is far greater. So ask yourself, are you living for comfort or are you living for cause? Because the man who lives for purpose always wins. Even when it looks like he's losing. Another defining difference between high value and low value men is boundaries. This is one of the clearest indicators of self-respect, because a man without boundaries is a man without identity. A high value man understands that saying yes to everything is not kindness, it is weakness. He knows his standards, his principles, and his limits, and he protects them unapologetically. He doesn't allow disrespect to slip by. He doesn't negotiate his core values, and he doesn't cling to relationships that erode his dignity. The low value man, on the other hand, operates from desperation. He fears rejection so much that he bends himself into whatever shape others demand. He tolerates disrespect because he thinks love is earned by endurance. He stays in situations that drain him simply because he's afraid of being alone. And in doing so, he communicates to the world that his time, his energy, his very self is cheap. Boundaries are not about arrogance, they are about clarity. The high value man doesn't need to fight for respect. He commands it because he enforces it. If someone crosses the line, he addresses it immediately, not with rage, but with calm certainty. That calmness is power because it shows he is not controlled by fear of losing people. He would rather lose someone than lose himself. The psychology here is simple. People will treat you according to the standard you set. If you allow others to disrespect you, they will continue. If you teach them through your actions that your boundaries are firm, they will adjust. Respect, after all, is not given, it is negotiated through the limits you are willing to enforce. This is why a high-value man can walk away, not because he is cold, but because he is whole. He knows that holding on to something toxic is far more dangerous than letting it go. The low-value man clings, thinking he is keeping something, but in reality, he is only losing himself piece by piece. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out, they are gates to protect what matters most. A man who honors his boundaries earns respect. A man who ignores them earns pity. And the truth is simple: if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Another crucial difference between a high-value man and a low-value man is emotional control. And I want to emphasize something here. Emotional control is not emotional suppression. It's not about pretending to feel nothing. It's about mastering your emotions instead of being mastered by them. A high-value man feels deeply, but he refuses to let those feelings dictate his decisions. He knows how to pause, how to breathe, how to respond rather than react. The low-value man, in contrast, is at the mercy of his emotions. Anger controls him. Jealousy consumes him, insecurity guides him. He reacts impulsively, exploding in rage, sulking in silence, or crumbling under pressure. Instead of being the author of his story, he becomes a puppet pulled by his moods. And people sense this instability. They can't trust him to remain steady because he is unpredictable, volatile, easily shaken. Psychologically, this comes down to regulation. Every human feels fear, envy, frustration, but the difference lies in who can regulate those feelings and who cannot. The high-value man recognizes his emotions as signals, not commands. Anger tells him something is wrong, but he doesn't lash out. He assesses. Fear warns him of risk, but he doesn't freeze. He strategizes. Jealousy stirs. But instead of comparing himself to others, he uses it as fuel to build himself further. This composure is what creates authority. Because leadership, respect, influence, all of these rest on trust. And trust is impossible if a man is reactive. The moment you explode or collapse under emotion, you reveal that you are not in control of yourself, which means you cannot be trusted to control anything else. The high-value man, therefore, is not the loudest in the room. He doesn't need to prove strength by raising his voice. His calmness is his dominance. His stillness is his power. It is precisely because he is not easily moved that people are moved by him. Remember this: storms are loud, but they pass quickly. Mountains are silent, but they endure forever. Be the mountain another sharp divide between a high-value man and a low-value man is mindset, specifically abundance versus scarcity. And this difference doesn't just shape how a man sees the world, it shapes how the world responds to him. A high-value man believes that opportunities are infinite, that there is always more to learn, more to build, more to create. He knows that life is not a zero-sum game where someone else's gain means his loss. Instead, he understands that value can be multiplied, that success can be created, and that relationships are choices, not prisons. The low-value man, however, lives in scarcity. He clings tightly to what little he has, not because it fulfills him, but because he fears he cannot do better. He holds on to toxic relationships, dead-end jobs, and limiting beliefs, all because his world is small. His entire psychology whispers, this is all there is. Don't lose it. And so he becomes trapped by fear, trapped by insecurity, trapped by the illusion that life has nothing more to offer him. Scarcity breeds desperation. It makes a man beg, chase, compromise beyond reason, and tolerate situations that diminish him. But abundance breeds calm. A high-value man can walk away, not because he is careless, but because he knows there will always be another opportunity, another door, another chance to rebuild. And this very ability to detach is what makes him powerful. He is not owned by what he possesses, he owns himself. Psychologically, abundance is not about having everything. It's about believing you can create more. It's about trust, not in luck, but in your own ability to adapt, learn, and rise again. And that belief changes the way others see you. A man who radiates abundance is magnetic because he does not chase, he attracts. He does not cling, he chooses. He does not fear loss because he knows that nothing essential can ever truly be taken from him. The scarcity mindset keeps men stuck. The abundance mindset sets them free. So here is the truth. A man who believes the world is full of limits will live a limited life. But a man who believes in abundance will always find a way to expand. The final distinction between a high-value man and a low-value man is leadership. And leadership here is not about titles, positions, or authority granted by others. It is about influence, the ability to shape your environment, to inspire people through your presence, and to direct your own life instead of waiting for someone else to steer it. A high-value man leads first and foremost himself. He disciplines his habits, sets his standards, and takes responsibility for his actions. When he speaks, people listen, not because he demands it, but because his words carry the weight of integrity. He doesn't need to dominate to be respected. His consistency commands it naturally. His leadership is rooted in example, not in empty demands. The low-value man, however, avoids responsibility. He prefers passivity because leadership requires risk, and risk exposes weakness. So he waits for someone else to decide, waits for circumstances to change, waits for life to hand him direction. This waiting erodes his power. People sense it and lose trust in him because no one wants to follow a man who cannot even lead himself. True leadership is about courage. It is the courage to stand firm in your convictions even when others doubt you. It is the courage to make decisions, knowing some will fail, but failure is better than paralysis. It is the courage to create movement when others hesitate. This courage is rare, which is why high-value men are rare. Philosophically, leadership reveals something deeper about manhood itself. To lead is to take responsibility, and responsibility is the very thing that gives life meaning. Without it, existence becomes shallow. With it, even struggle becomes noble. And this is why women are drawn to leaders, why men respect leaders, and why history remembers them. The low-value man escapes responsibility and fades into obscurity. The high-value man embraces responsibility and leaves a mark. Leadership is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself so completely that others can trust you to guide them. And here is the truth. A man who refuses to lead his life will always be led by someone else's vision. But the man who chooses to lead, he becomes the vision.